Hello there, my friends, and welcome back to another episode of TA with MK. My name is McKay, and in today's video, we're going to do another updated trading view for beginners. We're going to talk about how to set up your charts, things like the indicators, adjust the collars, where to find some of the most common tools, and just how to set up your chart to look basic and clean with all the settings that I use, so that way you can begin charting. I will leave timestamps in the description for those of you that just want to jump ahead to a certain topic. Otherwise, just remember, if you haven't already liked and subscribed, please pause the video and do so for me now, as it will make me oh so happy. Otherwise, without further ado, let's talk TradingView. It's TA with MK. It's TA with MK. So I guess the first important thing to get out of the way is that you're going to need a paid account, or at least a trial version of a paid account, in order to get all of the indicators that I'm going to show you in today's video. I think by default with a free account, it lets you have, I believe, 3 indicators. Altogether, I want to say that I use like 5 on a regular basis. And TradingView is one of those things that over time, the more you use it, you'll realize it's a tool that's worth the money. So I would definitely recommend, getting at least a trial version to start. I wouldn't pay if you're brand new right off the bat. Might as well use and take advantage of their trial versions, see if you like it, and so on. But in order to do so, if you are brand new, you're on tradingview.com. You're going to click up here on the top right where it says Get Started. And of course, this is where you can try for 30 days any one of these, 3 options that they have. Now, I use the premium account. To me, that pays for itself, but it is $60 a month. And when you're brand new, I don't think you probably need more than maybe really just the Pro. The Pro gives you 5 indicators per chart. You can set up to 20 different alerts at one time, which if you're brand new, you're probably only monitoring maybe 1 or 2 coins at once anyway. Over time, I would definitely recommend upgrading to the higher ones, as they do give you things like more indicators. This has up to 25 on the premium one, for example. 400 different alerts you could have set at one time, and alerts are my best friend. But again, you just kind of choose. But if you just want to, do a trial version, which I would recommend to start, might as well go ahead and click the best one they've got. You're going to get 30 days anyways, and you can just kind of see at the end of that 30 days how many indicators you are actually using that are discussed in today's video. How many alerts are you actually setting at any given time? And, then you can make your decision from there. At this point, we're going to work under the assumption that you either have an account or you just went ahead and paused the video and created one. And then up here on the top right, you should be logged in. For me, it shows that my account is TA with MK. I have a premium account. And I'm on the homepage of tradingview.com. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to click this search markets. And I'm going to type in a chart to look at. We're going to use BTC USDT, which is going to be the Bitcoin to Tether pairing. And I'm going to click this Binance chart, which is the top one that comes up. Go ahead and let that load up. Now, if your default chart that pulls up the first time looks different than this, doesn't really matter. Still, what I'm going to show you will apply. The first thing you want to do is right click out here in an empty area, and then go down here to the bottom of this where it says settings. And then the very first one that comes up, I don't know if by default it'll put you on appearance, but you want to be on appearance. And where it says background, you want to choose what you want the background color to be. Now, if it's default white and you like white, you can leave it that. I actually like to make my charts a little bit darker in the background. I don't like to go completely black, but I like to use like this next one up that's just a little less. It's just easier on my eyes. So I'm going to go ahead and use that. I'm going to click out of there. The next thing you want to do is pay attention to what the color of these price tags are over here on the right. Because, for example, when I had a white background, those are all white and you can't even see them. So you wouldn't even know where the price levels were at, right? So depending on what color background you choose, which in this case I'm going to choose, this color that's almost black, then you need to come over here where it says, where's it at? Right here, scales text. And right now that's white, which is what I want because white looks good with black behind it. But let's say you were using the white. Then you need to come down here to where it says scales text and change that to something like black so you can actually see those colors. So I'm going to go ahead and switch this to the colors I want, which is going to be this color for the background. And for the scales text, I'm going to click white. You can also change the size of those numbers. Let's say I want them really huge. There you go. Let's say you want them a lot smaller. There you go, right? I think 14 is just a number that works good on my monitor. So I'm going to go ahead and click out on that. Everything else, go ahead and leave as default and click OK. Now, before we move on to adding the actual indicators and going over some more things on this chart, I just want you to get comfortable with how you actually move a chart around, how you compress, decompress price action. By default, it should be on Candlesticks. You can go up here on the top left and you can change that to different things like bars. You can change it to line, which is just a clean chart like that. 95% or more of traders do just use candlesticks. I shouldn't say 95% actually. A lot of people like to use the, let's see, what are they called? these Heike and Ashi, I don't even know how you say it, but a lot of people like to use those as well, but I won't discuss those in this video. If you're new, I would assume just go ahead and use Candlesticks, and that's this. The bottom bar down here where it's showing dates like October, November, December, 2022, February, March, and so on. If you put your mouse down in there, you can click and drag left or right. That's gonna pull your price action horizontally, compress or decompress. And then over here where the price levels are, on this vertical right side of the chart, you can click your mouse down there and drag up and down to stretch your chart this way. Also over here on the top left, you've got where right now I'm on a daily chart. I can click this little drop down box and I can navigate to different time frames. Just so you understand, all this means is that each candlestick is, in this case, is representing a daily candle. So every single one of these green or red candles is one full day. If I change it to something like, say, 1 hour, now my price action looks different, but now each one of these candles is representing 1 hour worth of price action. So that's how you kind of change between your different time frames. This is how you change between your different type of candles that you want to use. And as far as moving your chart around, if you just want to move price action around but not compress or decompress, just click an open area and you can drag around. Okay, simple enough. Now we're going to go ahead and add a few of the indicators that I use. Now up here on the top left where it says indicators, if you click there, it's going to bring up an option of where you can search for the indicators. Now you want to add these in the exact order that I put them in, or that I mentioned them, for them to show up later in the exact order that I have them. Now you can adjust this later, and I'll quickly show you when we get to that point how you do that, because some people like to have them obviously in a different order than I do. But if you want them to be in the same order as I do and not have to mess with it later, add them in this exact order. One thing that may be different for you than it is for me right now is I have a bunch of things that are already saved as favorites. Clearly, if you're brand new on Tradingview, you're not going to have any favorites yet. That's why when I click on indicators, it has a bunch already listed here with stars next to them. That's just because I've added them to my favorites. And that's something, as you add these, then I would recommend doing as well. So the first one you want to search for is the MACD. So you're going to type in MACD. It's going to come up as the moving average convergence divergence. Now you want to click the little star next to it if it's not clicked, and then go ahead and just click that indicator, and it's going to add it to your chart. Then we're going to go ahead and erase that. The next one we're going to type in is the RSI, which will come up as the relative strength index. Again, on all of these, as you go ahead and click the star so that adds them to your favorite, and then click it to add it to your chart. Next one that we're going to do, we're going to delete that. We're going to type in MFI, which stands for the money flow index. Same thing, click star, click to add to chart. And the last one we're going to do is the stock RSI. If you type in STOCH, it will come up over here as the stochastic RSI. Again, click the star and then click the indicator. Should add all 4 of those to your chart. And the last couple you want to add, go ahead and erase this and type in CBC, and it should come up with this CBC 5MA DRS. Now, this is a moving average indicator that was created by the paid group that I'm a part of, which I will leave a link in the description for. It's Crypto Revolution. I've mentioned them on the channel before. It's just a paid group that I'm a member of and active in. But this is a indicator, a free indicator that he created that just brings up 5 of the most commonly used moving averages. So again, click the star, go ahead and add that to your chart. And then you're going to go erase that, and we're going to type in VPVR. Now, this is one of the ones that will not come up under a free account, but as long as you have a trial version like we discussed in the beginning or a paid account, this one will come up, VPVR, and it's the volume profile range. It's not coming up at the moment. I don't know why. Oh, there it is. Just type in VP, I guess, and it comes up as visible range volume profile. Used to come up as, oh, it's VRVP now, I guess. Visible range volume profile. Go ahead and click that. That'll add that to your chart. Go ahead and erase this, and we're going to add one more. There's a lot of different ones for this, but I'm just going to type in EMA, and the one that I use is just this first one that comes up that says, or not this first one that comes up, it's actually like the 5th one down. It says EMA 20, 50, 100, and 200 by Dr. Sweets. Go ahead and click the star on that, and then add that to your chart. And at that point, these are all the main indicators that I use, so you can go ahead and just click out into an empty space or hit this X to get rid of this indicator search bar. Now, this next portion of the video is completely preference. I'm going to go through each of these indicators, show you the settings that I use, and maybe even kind of why on some of them. But at the end of the day, a lot of it's just changing colors, and everybody's going to have their own preference on what colors they like. So this next part you can choose to follow, not follow, that's completely up to you. Maybe follow it at the beginning just so you can learn kind of how to change the colors, and then later go back and change them to what is visually pleasing to your eyeballs. Now also know that up here where it's showing the price action still at the top of my chart, if I click an empty space twice, double click, it will hide all of my indicators. I can double click again to unhide them. There's also a drop down box up here on the top left that opens up to where I can get to all the settings of each individual indicator, and I can also click that to hide that. So just know that going forward, that anytime you need to hide or unhide your indicators, double click or double click again to bring them up. And now we're going to discuss each one by one. Let me just quickly move my face kind of out of the way. Okie dokie, I moved myself over to the right side, so for the most part I should be out of the way for this next portion of the video. Now up here on the top left where I mentioned this drop down box, we want to click it so that it does drop down all of our different indicators, and each one's going to have a little settings gear off to the side. And if we look, depending on the order that you added them, they should be the same as mine, but up here on the very top it says CBC5. We're going to go ahead and click the little settings icon for that and just make sure that all of the settings look the same as here. These are already set up by default how I like them to be. However, I do like to hide a few of these. I don't personally use the 80 or the 100. I just use the 21, the 50, and the 200 just because to me they're more relevant in most of my trading strategies. You can choose to leave those on, but if you just want to copy me, I uncheck those two so that I only have the 21, the 50, and the 200, and I leave those the colors that they are by default, which is the 50 is red, the 21 is white, and the 200 as yellow. Go ahead and click OK. Next down we have the VPVR. You can go ahead and click the settings there. And on this one, we want to leave everything under style by default, but go over to inputs, and we want to change this first row size to 100, and we want to change the value area volume size to 200. Go ahead and click OK. It's going to kind of change how that looks over here. This is just what I like to trade with as far as that indicator goes. The next one down that says EMA, go ahead and click the settings. Now this one, we're only going to use a couple of them, or at least I only use a couple of them, but let me quickly explain kind of what it does have. So I have a different video that explains this, but the difference between the CBC one and this one is the CBC one is the simple moving averages, or the SMAs, and these are the EMAs, which stands for exponential moving averages. And there's a video that I made about that explains the difference, but just know that the difference is exponential just puts a little more weight on recent price action. I'll leave a link in the description actually to that video if you want to check that out. And the majority of these things I go over in this video have their own separate videos that I talk about more in depth, so I'm not going to talk about them a ton in this one. But on this one, just know that I don't use the 20, so I uncheck that first one, which is the 20, because I already used the 21 simple on the other one, and that one works fine. I do use the 50, but I change it to a little bit different color. It's red on the other one. I like to make it like a pink on this one. Then the next one, that's the 100. I don't use that, so I uncheck it. And then this bottom one that says 200. On the simple, that's yellow on the CBC one. On this one, I like it to be blue, so I pick this blue color. That's just my personal preference. Then I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And that's all I changed for these top three, which is the CBC, the VRVP, and the EMA. Now the next one down, which is the MACD, I don't change anything on that as well. I like the default, so we can go ahead and skip that. We're going to move over to the RSI. Go ahead and click the settings icon. On this one, I like to change the color of the RSI from white to yellow, and the color of that little moving average that's going through it, which is the RSI based MA, from yellow to white. I just changed those opposite. I don't mind the background being purple, but if you wanted to change that, you could come back down here to where it says background, RSI background fill, and change that to whatever color you wanted. Make it, it's at 10% right now, make it brighter or less bright. That's what's known as opacity. But anyway, I don't change that. One other thing I do change is this RSI upper band and RSI lower band. This is just a personal preference, but I changed the 70 to 80, and then the lower band from 30 to 20. So instead of 70 and 30, I use 80 and 20. We can go ahead and click OK. The next one down is the MFI, or the Money Flow Index. Go ahead and click the settings on that. And the only thing I change on that, which I actually haven't changed on my recent charts that I've been posting on YouTube, but I really don't even like having a background on that. I don't care so much about its upper or lower bands. I just use this to kind of look for divergences and kind of what money's doing as far as flow. So you can go ahead and just turn that opacity to 0 or unclick background so you don't have a background. That way it's a little bit different looking than the above one, which is the RSI. And I don't change any other settings on this, so go ahead and click OK. And then down here on the stochastic RSI, that's another one that by default should be fine. But if you wanted to change the background or something on this, you could come in here to the background, or sorry, to the settings, and you can change either the colors. I like to leave the colors of these bands the same as they come by default, which is blue and orange. But you could change, the background, turn it off on this one as well, or change it to to something different than what it is. I also like to make sure that these are also at 80 and 20, which matches up with my stochastic RSI at 80 and 20. So if that is something different by default for you, I would recommend changing those to 80 and 20 and go ahead and click OK. Now, I don't think you have to be married to these settings forever if you want different colors or you want to change some of the inputs on some of these as you get a little more experience. You can always, hide and unhide this area where you can find or access these settings. Once we're done with them, you want to hide them so they're not in the way or blocking your vision, but unless you want to reaccess them again, you can just click this at any time and then go to the right, hover your mouse over whichever indicator you want to change settings for, and then just click the icon and proceed to change the settings, colors or whatever you want, right? We're going to go ahead and hide those for now, and we're going to double click on the empty area of the chart up here to hide our indicators altogether as we move on to discuss our next topic. So I have a whole nother video that goes over this next part in depth, which I'll leave a link in the description. This is kind of how to set up your favorites toolbar. So I'm only going to briefly dive into it in this video, but I would recommend if this is something that interests you more, especially learning about how each indicator works and things like that, go ahead and see that video for more detail. But more or less, over here on the left, you've got this toolbar, of course, that has all your different tools that you can use. And if you want to add some of these to a favorites toolbar, which is what this is, all you have to do is put your mouse over it. You click the arrow. It's going to bring up some of these different tools. Let's just say you liked this Trendline tool. You could click the star next to it, and what happens when you click a star next to any one of these tools is it adds it to this toolbar out here. So right now you can see by default, these are some of the tools that I use the most. Again, I'm not going to explain them in this video, but that's how I added them to this toolbar. You can also just drag them around to just change the order. Maybe from left to right, you like to put what you use the most, and to the right what you use the least, or you want to keep shapes together. Whatever your organization reasoning is, you have the ability to do that. But just know that all the different tools are located over here on the left. There's also some useful things like down here where it has this little eyeball. I can click that, and I have the ability to hide drawings or hide indicators. A lot of times when I'm posting a chart in group or posting something where I'm only focusing on price action, I may not want the indicators kind of blurring up or dirtying my chart, so I can click hide indicators, and it just gives you a much cleaner looking chart. If all you're trying to show someone maybe is a simple idea of a trend line or a support level, and you don't want to have all that other stuff in the way. Same thing for like hide drawings. If I had a bunch of drawings on the chart, which I don't right now, I can hide those, hide indicators or hide everything so that all you have is just price action to look at. So that can be very useful too. Two of the most basic functions you as a beginner need to know how to do as it relates to Tradingview and just getting started is you need to know how to make horizontal lines of support and resistance and how to make trend lines. Of course, if you're going to be tracking patterns or price action going above resistance or bouncing at support or losing support or so on and so forth, then you need to know how to do these two things. And then you also need to know how to set alerts on those lines so that if you're not at your computer or your phone at the time that price action hits a level that you're eyeing or keying in on, that you get an alert on your phone that tells you, hey, Bitcoin in this case is breaking above some level you were tracking, right? So to make a horizontal line, you just click, hold your mouse over somewhere on the screen. You can kind of see these dotted lines show me where the line would be. Let's just say that I want to put a line across here at this key area of around $29,000. I could click Alt plus H, and that puts a horizontal line. You can then click on that line to change the colors and the settings for it. So say I wanted to change it from white to maybe like blue, I could do that. Maybe I want it to be thicker than this 1 pixel. I can change it to like 4 pixel. Now it's super, super thick, or choose something in between. I don't use vertical lines as much, but you can do Alt plus V to do vertical lines in case you're trying to keep track of a certain time that maybe something's going to do something. That's a little more advanced, but that's just how you do that. You can also change those settings. And then trend lines, that's just up here on the first one on the toolbar on the left. You can see it says trend line. I already have it added to my favorites toolbar here. So I can click that. Let's say I was keeping track of this trend line across here, from this all-time high to when it got rejected here, and I just want to know when it's going to break out of there or keep track of that. Now I've drawn that trend line, or maybe I'm tracking this large like falling wedge or something. That's how I draw that pattern. And then as far as setting alerts on those, that's very simple. And there's 3 different ways you can set alerts. There's probably more than 3, but 3 I'm going to go over in this video. Now you can right click on, say, a horizontal line, and it says add alert on horizontal line. I won't go over exactly all these settings, maybe just quickly. You could choose if you want the alert to go off only once if price action crosses there. You could say once per minute. say once per bar close, which would just mean that the actual candlestick would need to close above that level in order to set the alert. So if it just wicked into it and came back down, you wouldn't get an alert. And that would all be relevant to what time frame you were tracking, but I usually leave it on just once. I leave this on crossing, just meaning that if it crosses that horizontal line in this case, it'll set me alert. You can name it something, that way if it does pop up, you can remember what the heck you set that alert for. I usually don't. I just then, whenever I get an alert, I just hop on the chart and I see what alert went off, and I know what it was for. But you could name this, Bitcoin 29,500 or something, and hit create. Now it's going to put a little symbol down here that shows, a little clock that shows that I have an alert set on that horizontal line. Let's say that I wanted to set one on this trend line now. You could right click on the trend line, add alert, same thing. I want to know when it's crossing that trend line only once. You can name it if you choose and hit create, same thing. Now it's going to put a little clock or a little symbol next to that trend line to show I have an alert set there. Another way you can set alerts without even having to have trend lines on your chart is, let's just say I wanted to be alerted as it was approaching my horizontal line, but I didn't want to draw another one. Then I already have one added here. I guess I should have deleted that first. Let me remove it real quick and show you real quick how to do that. So you can hover your mouse over a certain area, and then you can just see there's a little plus sign over here to the right next to the prices. If I get that, say where I want to be alerted, I can hit the plus sign, and then right here where it says add alert, I can click that, and it's going to put this little orange dotted line across my screen, which is also acting as a horizontal area where it will set an alert. But I'm not setting it, but I don't have to actually draw the horizontal line in this case. So it's just another way you can set alerts. Keep in mind that I'm constantly putting out videos with tips and tricks on kind of how to use Tradingview or how to do a lot of the different functions within Tradingview. And I will also put out a follow-up video to this, or a more advanced Tradingview video in the coming days or the next week or so, that goes over some more advanced tools, or some of the things like this replay thing up here on the top. Over here on the tools section, there's things like this bars pattern, which can be used to show fractals. And we'll go over some of that in future videos, but if you are new, which should be what led you to this video, I think this should be enough to kind of get you started with the basics and help you kind of just start to begin to make a chart on Tradingview and navigate the indicators and so on. And there you have it. Hope you guys found a teeny tiny bit of value in today's video. And always, if you did, please remember to like and subscribe. And we'll talk to you tomorrow. It's TIMEFRAMES.